Hi. So I actually wanted to do a talk on Docker. And Mike said to me, nah, they kind of know it already though. Let's give them Docker Compose. So hands up if you understand the basics of Docker. Okay, that's good. We're at a Docker user group. This is good. This is good. Good start. It's a good start. So hands up if you understand Docker Compose. Okay, why are you here today? That's interesting. But I can guarantee you don't know Docker Compose like you could, actually. So let's look at a few examples, and this is a talk on Docker Compose, aka keeping it all together. So meet Rory. Rory's an Overwatch dwarf there that actually looks quite angry, and he doesn't have a hand. So I'm a developer in the R&D team. We do training for up to 700 developers, and we do most languages and frameworks also. We run a few user groups here. I particularly run the Java and AWS user groups. Whoop, whoop, yay. I'm not related to Tyrion Lannister at all in any way. I did a machine learning with AWS that actually showed that, we're not the same people. It's like statistic. Okay, it was 95% probability, but that's not... That's not the important part, okay? It was 5% chance I'm not him.
At least you won't be associated with Destiny.
Destiny? Okay, no, I've lost the books and everything. I don't do kids' parties. I don't do adults' parties. I don't do parties, okay? Don't ask. Yeah. Okay, but why Docker Compose, really? So why Docker Compose? And I think I've been asked that question quite a few times. Because in essence, when your boss tells you to go build microservices, this is exactly what you do. Each one of those individual microservices is going to be an individual Docker container, and what you get is a mishmash of all of those services as such, though. So Docker Compose is important because it isolates and also allows you to control the individual Docker containers. And also, Docker, it's so hot right now. So Mike and I did a training course once, where on the day of the training course, they fundamentally changed the versioning of Docker. Like we go, oh, this is working. No, it's not. It's not even working today, though. So Docker has seen a lot of change recently. We've seen them split up from Docker CE and EE. And recently now, they've also baked in Kubernetes. So there is a lot of changes going on. Azure and AWS both have standardized on Kubernetes, and also Docker as the container services, though. So it's really hot right now, and there's a lot of interest. So we're going to look at an example. I touched on it briefly before. We're going to look at an example on how to Dockerize it. So this is probably the most complex example you can get, which is a 3-tiered application, which is going to take a reactive Mongo repository with quote objects, stream it through to your reactive REST controllers, and then stream it through to Angular. So we're going to use a Mongo, Spring Boot, and then a Angular container. And we're going to show the ease of being able to use Docker Compose to orchestrate and to bring up that. So let's start actually with exactly what each of those components are. And of course, I don't know, who here speaks Java? Okay, Len, before Java was even a thing, hey? So for our Java image, I'm not going to show you the Mongo image because it's just Mongo. We have a Docker image where we're going to install Java, install a jar file, and then we're just going to call that jar file on startup. So pretty simple. Got one of the images there, JDK. We've got our jar file, our working directory, and then we just execute. Pretty simple. The reactive REST part there is going to have an endpoint there that returns a flux. A flux is one or more objects. And then we've got a reactive Mongo repository feeding the flux, though. So there is a lot of interest now on reactive databasing. You can get reactive Cassandra, Mongo, and Oracle is going to release some drivers soon for reactive Oracle. But basically, it's reactive in the front and NoSQL in the back. For the Angular, we have, and it's so nice and clean. We have basically Alpine and Apache. You add your dist folder, and then you expose port 80. Pretty simple. Okay, the Angular code also kind of, yeah. What? No, just what? So can you make sense of what's going on there? Okay. Oh, nice. But have you ever seen event source first? I'm trying to do a survey here. Have you ever seen event source? Okay, you need to do a talk on its Len.
JavaScript Meetup.
Yeah. So basically, we're going to pipe through the quote objects that we're going to get through there, and we're going to create observables through that, and then we're going to display them on a grid. So stop, demo time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually show you the pain of trying to do this with command line, and then we're going to look at how to actually make that into a Dockerized application. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to use compose and also an element of compose to create the Mongo only version. So I'm going to create a database, a Mongo only version, and I'm actually going to do a /d. So that's going to actually create just a Docker Mongo version. I'm then going to go to my trusty git bashes, and I'm going to actually run a Spring Boot that will actually integrate into the Mongo version. So I've got my Mongo instance, and I'm kind of keeping tabs of that. And I've got my Spring Boot instance there that I'm running. All kind of binding to the right ports, I hope, as such, though. Hopefully this works. Remember, I'm exposing all the ports right now. And then lastly, I'm going to actually just serve up my Angular code with ng-serve. Oh, I can hear my CPU fan, hey, just going crazy. I'm compiling JavaScript right now. Still can't get used to that idea. Notice how long that took. Okay, so then I have my front end here. Now I can hit blocking. So the blocking request is going to use your standard blocking mechanisms, hit your controller, hit your repository, hit your Mongo, and it's going to block. And you get the same kind of experience there. Hopefully this works. And it's going to come back. Whew. But you can kind of see I've lost track. What is running right now? On what window, what is running right now? And it's very difficult to keep tabs of exactly what's going on. Is every port open? Everything's open right now, which means I can actually give you a nice demo of another little, not that one there. Has anyone seen back pressure with reactive services? You guys understand what I'm talking about, back pressure? So if I go history, grep/I, cool. Let me show you what back pressure is here. Cool. So I'm going to actually call a service that I created, and I'm going to call that. And this service here is just going to bring back one word, Spring Boot starter web. It's just going to bring that back. So if I'm being inundated, what do I do? Who do I say? What do I do? I send back pressure back to the reactive stack. So I can actually go just look at my stack. So that's my stack there. That's my Spring Boot stack. And I can actually go in here and I can go stop. So what happened? I sent a stop request, but I didn't stop myself. I sent a stop request to the server. I can actually go into the server here, and I can see it sent cancel. So that's just a little bit of tidbit of side note there, and that's what back pressure is. And I find a lot of developers get like, oh no, but I don't understand. It's probably a pattern, everything. It's as simple as that. So we created a MongoDB streaming repository that you can see now that I can just stream from. We created a Spring Boot reactive repository, and we also created an Angular. And we did that manually. Now I can start up all of those Docker instances also, or I can actually use Compose to actually get that done. So let me can this. Control C always works. Never. Let me can that. And let me can my MongoDB, but I don't think I'm going to can it. I'm going to actually just say down. And let me open Task Manager to make sure that everything's dead. I'm looking for Node specifically. I've just noticed that as soon as I see Node there, there's an issue. No Node, no Java. Okay, we're all good. One shouldn't have to look at Task Manager to see if things are still up. Hey, that's just weird. So let's look at what we can do with Docker Compose. So this is in just 1 hour from now, you only have 4 hours left until you have to work a mere 3 hours. The main essence of Docker Compose is efficiency. It's being able to do exactly what I did there in a more efficient way to be able to bring your entire stack up in really one command. Everything you can do in Docker Compose can be done by the CLI any which way. You can create networks, you can create volumes, you can create your Docker images as such, though. It just brings everything together. And also, what we'll see there with Kubernetes, something magically has happened to Docker Compose. It's become something else. So what is Docker Compose? So you can define and run container applications. You can specify your images and configurations in a simple YAML file. Jason didn't win. Sorry, Jason. YAML seems to have won. And you one command to get it up. So we saw when we started the Mongo instance there, we just did up. And then we had to kill it some other way, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. So Docker Compose up builds your image from your Docker files, pulls your image from registries, creates and starts your container, and then starts to stream their logs. The magical up. So why? To make your development environments repeatable, isolated, and fast. Repeatable is very important. When I was originally a Java developer, when we had an environment, repeatable meant 2 weeks. Okay, there's a developer, he's got it working. What do you want to do? Give me 2 weeks, I'll get it working. What? Yeah, because we have to inspect all of the libraries to see what version is running on each of the instances to get it working. We still made money, it's all good in the hood. Also, Docker Compose is a great way to test. 3 lines, and you've got all your tests running. Docker Compose up, run your tests, Docker Compose down. It shouldn't be more difficult than that to actually execute your tests. What is it commonly used for? So typically it's used for your 3-tiered applications. LAMP stack, is that still a thing? LAMP? Mean?
26% of the world is running WordPress.
Yeah, WordPress is good.
Mean? That's still a thing, hey? And then obviously WordPress. So you can create a Docker Compose WordPress stack. I've recently done Elastic, Logstation, Kibana. Now normally you go like start the one, start the other, what's going on between the two. And now it's just start them all. And then cloud. We get called in to a lot of clients who try to use Spring Cloud and the Netflix stack with Docker Compose. A lot of clients. And typically, you want to get those cloud services up because you can create your gateway, your discovery client, and your entire Netflix stack with one Docker Compose. So in my experience, these are the 3 main elements of where you would use Docker Compose. So let's do a step-by-step to create a compile file. This is your skeleton. And I'm going to use version 2, because version 3 gets a little bit weird. We're going to go through version 3, but version 2 is what I grew up with, like what I've been using with. and it is a much simpler version. You've got your version at the top, then you've got your services, you've got your volumes, and you've got your networks. Okay, your volumes where I want to put data, and your networks is where you want to isolate your server communication. So the three services we're going to create there are Mongo, Spring Boot, and Angular Reactive. So the first one there, I'm going to create a Mongo instance, give it a host name, give it a ports, volumes, and networks. So Docker Compose looks a lot like just plain old Docker. My Spring Boot Reactive, very similar, except that now that I've got context of the Mongo instance, I'm going to tell Spring Boot, hey, now that's the host name that you're going to use. Host names in networks? Yes, because you only have IP addresses, and I don't know what or care for the IP address that Docker Compose gives me. And the last is Angular, just so easy, and just do your stuff, Angular, okay? The Java people and Mongo people are battling. You can just consume when you want, though. So how big is that? So it's kind of, that's everything in one Compose file. You got your version, you got your services, your Spring, your Angular, your volumes, and your networks. Docker Compose up. I'm such a hacker. Okay, so let's actually do that. Let's do an up here. We saw how long it took me to work out exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I'm going to do an up. And for some reason, the logging stopped working just before the demo. So I'm going to do an up / lowercase d. What does lowercase d do? Detach. So it basically means we're not going to stream the logs anymore to it. We're just going to let it do its own thing. And we're just going to hit enter. Not that one. Remember how long it took me previously? Let's see how long I'm done. There's a huge speed improvement. Now we should be able to just go onto our little blocking request here. It started up. Oh, my fan is like really burning right now. Hit blocking request and you get that same experience that we're used to. Blocking, coming back, eventually blocking.
It's a bit longer because everything's going to start.
Yeah, we're used to blocking, so let's see if it actually comes back.
Yeah, but there's that illusion because Docker says, cool, the container's started. The actual thing inside the container is still like running on. Still Java.
What's the Angular rate?
Okay, let's try that again. Let's try that again. Let's try
Angular's terrible at that.
blocking request again.
What area? You have time?
Hey?
What area? You have time?
And it came back. Okay, but just for today, if you go back and you know Docker Compose, just have a look at functional reactive endpoints because it's going to give your users an experience like that. No more waiting. No more little funny little things spinning and stuff. Just give me my data now. Your Netflix bar. You know your Netflix bar? Who's got a Netflix account? Netflix account. You won't wait. Imagine you waited for that thing. No, good. I'm going to go. What else is there other than Netflix? Nothing. So you can't wait for anything else. So you're all hackers now. You know Docker Compose. So let's just bring that down. Docker Compose down. Done, 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 done. Yay. Yeah. Try to get Docker Swarm running rescued by K8. So I'm a huge, huge enemy of anything related to Minikube and Docker Swarm. I have had more of my life's time stripped from those tools than I'd like to actually admit to. So with version 3 and recently, Docker has actually, I don't know, there was a war and both of them had an armistice or something, and they both said, oh, we'll just, get along as such though. So with version 3, you now have the option to use Kubernetes as a orchestration engine. You had Swarm. Did anyone here use Swarm? You poor bastards. However you use Swarm, you can use it with Kubernetes. Caveat, it's released in Mac. It's in the Edge version of Docker for Windows, which I'm running right now. So there is a caveat. And this is version 3.3. And we can see here that the only real difference is that we have replicas here. You do have health checks and other services that Docker Compose has brought in, but you have replicas. So this is going to start up 5 instances of that component there. So this is what they released in the DockerCon 2018, and it was when they announced Kubernetes was baked into Docker. Basically what this does, it creates 5 instances of a little web portlet, and it brings back a word for each of these instances. And the word just pulls it from a words list though. It has your web though, which is going to have a, I think an Nginx front end, and then also your database, which is Postgres. So we're going to actually tell Docker, I'm going to paste from a PowerPoint presentation, always brave. And I'm going to set my orchestration to be Kubernetes. And then I'm going to actually deploy my stack. But notice this, that I'm going to deploy the stack and I'm going to use a compose file. Come on. This is why PowerPoint's terrible to actually work off. I'm going to deploy a stack, and that's where I see Compose really becoming of its own though. Compose now has become the way that you specify your microservices, the service stack as such. So now I've deployed my stack there. My stack has been created. It's going to start up those 5 instances, and it's going to use Kubernetes as the default orchestration engine. How do I know? I can actually go, where's my kube control? Let's actually do just a history. Oh, I've got it in PowerPoint because I work off PowerPoint. Kube control get deployment. So this is the standard kube control. It's the tooling there. And it's going to actually go and interrogate my Kubernetes cluster and bring back, I've got 5 words instances, and I've got 5 word instances running. That was very quick and painless. And I didn't lose 2 weeks of my life trying to get Minikube to work with Docker. Let's look at the actual application. It's already started up then. And basically, each one of those little nodes there is an individual node in the Docker Compose stack that I actually specified, running in Kubernetes. This is where I see Docker Compose evolving to, as becoming the mechanism for you to publish a stack into microservice architectures. And then obviously, I want to actually get rid of my stack, because if this was on AWS, like I left my stack running over the weekend, That was a costly little exercise.
So this is all running locally?
All running locally, yes. I am not of the trusting of the clouds to do that. And then I can remove my stack, and I can actually just check it again, and there's no resources found. So finally, in the future, everything is Dockerized. Those are the GitHub locations, and you can play around with it. I strongly advise you, if you're going to use this for production, remember that the Docker version that comes with Kubernetes built in is still Edge. I've already tested it with a few other things that didn't work on everything, but it's a nice way to get ready for Kubernetes and see exactly where Docker Compose is going to evolve to. It's going to become basically your deployment bundle for your microservices. Thank you, everyone.